Frank led the freed pilots through the ship's corridors with precise movements. In his dual mind state, he processed multiple threats simultaneously, anticipating patrol patterns and security responses. "Lisa, take Jack and secure the engine room," Frank instructed. "Olivia, you're with me. We're heading to the bridge." The pilots moved with new confidence. Their time in captivity had changed them, thinning the barriers between their primary and companion minds. Though not in full dual mind like Frank, they operated with enhanced awareness and coordination. Jack moved toward the engine room, his mind flowing with technical knowledge that had previously been Chris's domain. He instinctively understood the ship's systems in ways he never had before. Lisa followed him, her movements precise and economical. "Remember, we need control, not destruction," she said. The raiders had injured no one yet, and human policy was clear on proportional response. Frank and Olivia made their way toward the bridge, encountering increasingly stronger resistance. Raiders fired weapons down corridors and set up barricades, but Frank moved with impossible precision, as if he could predict their actions before they happened. "He's anticipating our tactics," Drex reported to Commander Grack on the bridge. "Security teams are reporting the human moves like he knows our protocols." "How many humans are we dealing with?" Grack demanded. "Just the 4, Commander. The 3 we captured, and this new one." Grack slammed his fist down. "Impossible. 4 beings cannot take a ship with a crew of 30. Zentai stood quietly in the corner. "These are not 4 beings, Commander. In their current state, they function as more." Before Grack could respond, the bridge doors slid open. Frank and Olivia stood in the doorway, holding raider weapons set to stun. "Commander Grack," Frank said calmly, "your ship is now under our control." Grack looked around at his bridge crew, noting their shocked expressions. "You're bluffing. 2 humans cannot control a ship this size." Frank touched his communication device. "Status report. Engine room secured." Jack's voice responded. "All systems under control. Life support and communications secured," Lisa added. "We've locked out all command functions from secondary stations." Grack's scales paled slightly. "How is this possible?" Frank approached him, moving with the fluid grace of a mind operating at double capacity. "You wanted to know why humans travel alone in space. Now you'll understand." Olivia kept her weapon trained on the bridge crew while Frank connected to the ship's communication system. His fingers moved with precision across the unfamiliar controls, quickly mastering the interface. "Attention Raider crew," Frank announced, his voice echoing throughout the ship. "Your vessel is now under Earth Fleet control. Remain at your stations. No harm will come to you if you cooperate." Grack stared at Frank with a mixture of fear and confusion. "What are you?" Frank turned to the Raider commander. "We are human solo pilots. We're never truly alone." "The dual consciousness," Grack said slowly, understanding dawning on his reptilian features. "Your companion minds." Frank nodded. "Humans evolved on a planet where isolation meant death. We're fundamentally social creatures. When we began exploring space, we faced a problem: the psychological toll of isolation. Other species solved this with larger crews. We found a different solution. You created internal companions," Zentai said softly. "Parts of your own minds, separated and developed to provide the social interaction your species requires." "Yes," Frank confirmed. "And in emergencies, we can do more than just talk to our companions. We can integrate completely, becoming dual mind. 2 consciousnesses working as one, with double the mental processing power." Lisa and Jack arrived on the bridge, having secured the rest of the ship. The 4 humans stood together, but Grack now understood they were effectively more than 4 beings. "This is why no one travels with us," Lisa explained. "We don't need physical companions. And other species find the neural architecture of our minds unsettling." Grack looked at his defeated crew, then back at the humans. "The galaxy has misunderstood your species," he said finally. "We thought your solo ships were primitive. We were wrong." Frank nodded. Spread the word, Commander. Human solo ships aren't easy targets. They're the most efficient combat units in space. One human pilot in dual mind can handle emergencies that would require multiple crew members for any other species. The message spread quickly across the galaxy. Raiders avoided human ships. Alien traders stopped mocking solo pilots, and when asked why humans traveled alone, pilots would simply smile and say, "Who says we're alone?" Frank Morrison drifted silently in his spacesuit, watching the massive raider ship through his helmet display. It had taken him 2 weeks to track the missing pilots using the emergency beacon signals that Earth Space Authority had detected. Now he floated just 50 meters from the enemy vessel, having approached under the cover of a passing debris field. "Ready?" Frank whispered. In his mind, Eli, his companion for the past 15 years, responded with calm confidence. Unlike regular pilots, Frank had special training. He was part of an elite rescue team prepared for exactly this kind of mission. Initiating dual mind, Frank said softly. He closed his eyes and mentally dissolved the barrier that normally kept Eli separate in his consciousness. It was like removing a dam between two rivers. Thoughts, skills, and awareness that had been Eli's domain flooded into Frank's mind, and has flowed into what had been Eli's territory. They weren't two entities communicating anymore. They were a single mind operating with doubled processing power. In dual mind state, Frank could maintain awareness of multiple systems simultaneously. He could process visual information, perform complex calculations, and control his body with superhuman precision. Time seemed to slow as his brain processed information at twice the normal speed. Frank moved toward the raider ship's maintenance airlock, bypassing the regular entry points that would be guarded. As he worked on the external controls, his enhanced perception allowed him to hear the faint sounds of movement inside the ship through the vibrations in his gloved hands. Inside the raider vessel, Commander Grack was reviewing security measures with his officers when an alarm sounded. "Outer airlock breach on maintenance level," reported a security officer. "Someone is boarding us." "Impossible," Grack snarled. "We're in deep space. There are no other ships within detection range." The security cameras showed a single figure in a spacesuit entering through a maintenance airlock. The intruder moved with unusual speed and precision, disabling the internal alarm system before it could trigger a full lockdown. "One human," Drex said, checking the scanner readings. "Just one." Grack's eyes narrowed. "Another soloed human. They never learn." He turned to his security team. "Capture this one. Bring them to me alive." Frank moved through the raider ship like a ghost. In dual mind state, he could visualize the entire vessel's layout based on standard ship designs and subtle clues in the corridor markings. He could predict patrol patterns by analyzing the wear patterns on the floor. His brain processed every sound, every shadow with doubled efficiency. When a group of raiders ambushed him at a junction, Frank reacted before they could fire. His movements were fluid and precise, almost impossibly fast. He disarmed the first attacker and used his weapon to stun the others before they could report the contact. On the security monitors, Grack watched in disbelief as the lone human systematically worked through his ship's defenses. The intruder moved differently than any being Grack had ever seen, not faster in a physical sense, but with perfect economy of motion, as if every action was calculated to maximum effect. "What is this?" Grack demanded. Sentai, who had been observing, stepped forward. "The same dual consciousness structure we saw in the prisoners, but different. The barrier is gone completely. This human is operating in what their kind might call a perfect state. Two minds working as one." "How is that possible?" Grack asked. "I suspect this is what they train for," Zente replied. "The captured pilots showed signs of this ability, but this one has mastered it. He's not just having a conversation with himself. He's being two people simultaneously." Frank reached the detention level and disabled the guards with precise stun shots. He found the cells holding the 3 captured pilots and quickly worked to release the locks. Lisa looked up as her cell door opened. She immediately recognized what she was seeing in Frank's eyes, the seamless integration of dual consciousness. "Dual mind," she whispered. "They sent a recovery specialist." Frank nodded once. "Time to go. Can you maintain controlled integration?" Lisa nodded. The barriers between her and Mira had thinned, but not dissolved completely. She could access Mira's knowledge while maintaining separate identities. "Good," Frank said. "We're taking this ship, and then the raiders will finally understand why humans fly solo." Lisa sat cross-legged on the floor of her cell, eyes closed. To any observer, she appeared to be meditating. In reality, she was having the most important conversation of her life. "They're pushing too hard," she whispered. "We need to do something." Inside her mind, the voice of her companion responded with unusual urgency. For years, Mira had been Lisa's internal partner, a separate consciousness grown from her own mind through the companion protocol. Normally, Mira served as company, a second opinion, someone to talk to during the long journeys through space. But now, something was changing. In the cell next to hers, Jack Nguyen paced restlessly. His companion, whom he called Chris, had always been analytical and tactical. Since their capture, Chris had been growing stronger, more present. Jack could feel the boundaries between them thinning. "The ship's security systems use a standard Verlian code structure," Jack muttered. 3-tier encryption with bypass nodes at junction points. This knowledge wasn't his. Jack had been a pilot, not a security expert. But Chris had always been interested in systems, had always processed that part of Jack's training more deeply. Now that knowledge was becoming more accessible, flowing between them instead of staying contained. 2 cells down, Olivia Spencer sat perfectly still, her eyes tracking invisible data points in the air before her. Her companion Emma had always been mechanically inclined. Now, as the raiders continued their psychological pressure, Emma's knowledge was flooding into Olivia's conscious mind. "Engine room on deck 4, Olivia whispered. "Life support systems on deck 2. Weapons control on the bridge, with secondary controls in the auxiliary command center on deck 3. She had never been on the bridge. She had never seen the engine room. But somehow, she knew the ship's layout perfectly. Commander Grack reviewed the security footage with growing alarm. The humans were changing. The female named Olivia was reciting details about his ship that she couldn't possibly know. The male, Jack, was speaking about security systems with expert knowledge. "They're accessing information somehow," Grack told his officers. "Check for hidden communications devices again." Drex, his technology specialist, shook his head. "We've scanned them repeatedly, Commander. There's nothing. No implants, no devices. Just their unusual brain patterns." Sentai, the psychic, had been observing silently. Now he spoke. "The barriers are thinning." "What barriers?" Grack demanded. "Between their consciousnesses," Sente explained. "What I sensed before were distinct patterns, separated by mental barriers. Now those barriers are becoming permeable. The separate parts of their minds are flowing together." In her cell, Lisa felt it happening. The companion protocol had strict safeguards. The companion consciousness was meant to remain distinct, a conversation partner, but not a merged entity. Those safeguards were failing under the stress of captivity. "Mira," Lisa whispered, "I can feel you everywhere now." For the first time in her life, Lisa wasn't just talking to her companion. She was becoming her companion, and her companion was becoming her. Memories, skills, and thought patterns that had been Mira's exclusive domain were now accessible to Lisa. It was frightening and exhilarating all at once. Similar transformations were happening with Jack and Olivia. The companions that had been created to prevent isolation madness were evolving into something the companion protocol designers had only theorized about: true psychological integration. Grack ordered increased security on the detention level. Something about the humans' behavior worried him deeply. They were too calm, too knowledgeable. They moved differently now, more efficiently, more precisely. "What's happening to them?" he asked Exente. The psychic's expression was grave. They are becoming more than they were. In trying to break them, you have forced them to adapt. Their dual consciousness structure was designed for companionship, but under threat. He paused. It appears to be reconfiguring for survival. Grak looked at the monitors showing all 3 humans. Are they dangerous? Commander, Xentai said softly. They were always dangerous. You just didn't know it. The cell was small and perfectly silent. Lisa Daniels sat on the simple bed, her back against the wall. 3 days had passed since her capture. The raiders had placed her in what they called an isolation chamber, a room designed to break prisoners through complete sensory deprivation. Little did they know, Lisa was far from alone. They're watching us again, she whispered, her eyes fixed on a small camera in the corner of the cell. 3rd observation today. In the monitoring room, Commander Grak observed the human with growing frustration. Beside him stood 2 other captive human pilots, Jack Nguyen and Olivia Spencer, both captured weeks earlier from their own solo ships. All 3 humans were behaving the same way, talking to empty space, showing no signs of the psychological breakdown that should have happened by now. This defies everything we know about sentient psychology, Grak said. 3 weeks of isolation should have broken even the strongest minds. One of his officers, a technology specialist named Drex, checked the monitoring equipment. The chambers are functioning perfectly, Commander. No hidden communications, no technological assistance. They are completely isolated. Grak pounded his fist on the console. Then why aren't they breaking? Even my species, evolved from solitary hunters, cannot withstand such isolation without severe mental decline. Perhaps we need more direct methods, Drex suggested. Grak considered this, then shook his head. No, I want to understand this phenomenon. There's something about humans we're missing, something that could be valuable. He turned to another officer. Bring in Xentai. Hours later, a hooded figure glided into the detention area. Xentai belonged to an ancient species known for their psychic abilities. His kind rarely left their home world, but this one had joined the raiders out of curiosity about other species' minds. You wish me to probe the humans? Xentai asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Grak nodded. Something is protecting them from isolation sickness. I need to know what it is. Xentai moved to Lisa's cell first. The human woman watched him approach with calm interest. Hello, Lisa said. You must be the mind reader I've heard about. Xentai tilted his head. You seem unconcerned. Lisa shrugged. Should I be? Without answering, Xentai raised his 6-fingered hand and closed his eyes. His species could form psychic connections with other minds, reading surface thoughts and emotions. As he reached out to Lisa's consciousness, he expected to find the typical patterns of a humanoid brain. What he found instead made him stumble backward in shock. What's wrong? Grak demanded. Xentai's breathing had become rapid. She is not alone in there. Explain, Grak ordered. Her mind, Xentai said, struggling to find the words. It contains another. Not separate, but not the same. Like 2 streams of water flowing from the same source, but never mixing. Grak looked through the transparent barrier at Lisa, who smiled back at him. Try the others, he commanded. Xentai moved to Jack's cell, then Olivia's. Each time, his reaction was the same. Shock, followed by growing unease. They all have it, Xentai reported. Multiple consciousness patterns in single brains. It's not natural. No species evolves this way. Some kind of technological implant, Grak suggested. No, Xentai said. The secondary consciousness is part of them, grown from their own minds. This is deliberate psychological architecture. In her cell, Lisa continued her quiet conversation with her unseen companion. She had felt the alien's psychic touch, felt his surprise and fear. Good. Let them be afraid. They still didn't understand what they were dealing with. They know something's different about us now, she murmured, but they don't know what we can do yet. Grak watched the monitor, a new feeling growing inside him. Not just curiosity now, but concern. In all his years raiding ships throughout the galaxy, he had never encountered anything like these humans. They had seemed like easy prey, alone in their small ships. But now he was beginning to understand. The humans were never alone, and that made them far more dangerous than anyone had realized. Lisa Daniels checked her ship's scanners for the third time. Something felt off about the empty sector ahead. The Silent Guardian was a small but capable vessel, designed for long-range patrol missions along the outer colonies. Lisa had been piloting solo ships for 7 years now, and she had developed a strong sense for trouble. "What do you think?" she asked, her eyes still fixed on the scanner display. "It looks clear, but—" She paused as if listening to a response, then nodded. "Right. Let's run a deeper scan." Lisa's fingers moved across the control panel, activating the ship's more sensitive detection systems. These used more energy, but could detect vessels with basic stealth technology. The scan took 30 seconds to complete, and when it did, her suspicions were confirmed. "There," she said, pointing at a faint outline on the screen. "Hiding in the radiation shadow of that gas cloud. Signature matches known raider vessels." Lisa took a deep breath. Raiders were bad news, especially for solo ships. She could try to outrun them, but if they had spotted her already, that would just lead to a chase she might not win. The Silent Guardian wasn't built for speed. "No, you're right," she said to the empty air beside her. "Better to face them on our terms." With quick, decisive movements, Lisa began programming a series of commands into the ship's computer. Rather than fleeing, she adjusted course directly toward the hidden raider vessel. At the same time, she activated several systems in sequence: emergency beacons, sensor buoys, and a specialized communications protocol that would send encrypted data bursts to the nearest Earth fleet outpost. On the raider ship, Commander Grak was startled by the sudden change in the human vessel's behavior. "The ship has spotted us," his tactical officer announced. "But it's moving toward us, not away." Grak's yellow eyes narrowed. "A trap? Scan for other human vessels." "Nothing detected, Commander. The human is alone." "Then the pilot has lost their mind," Grak said. "No sane being approaches raiders voluntarily. Prepare to disable their ship." The raider vessel emerged from hiding, its weapons systems fully charged. They fired a targeted ion pulse designed to disable the smaller ship's engines and communications. The pulse hit the Silent Guardian directly, causing its lights to flicker and its engines to stall. "Direct hit," the weapons officer reported. "Their systems are disabled." "Good," Grak said. "Bring them in." The raiders extended their capture field, drawing the helpless human ship toward their docking bay. Within minutes, boarding teams had cut through the airlock and stormed into the Silent Guardian. They found Lisa sitting calmly in the pilot's chair, hands raised in surrender. "Just one human," the boarding team leader reported back to Grak. "Female. Not resisting." Grak was puzzled by the report. Most pilots fought, or at least showed fear when captured. He decided to meet this human himself. When Grak entered the captured ship, Lisa looked up at him with a steady gaze that showed no trace of fear. "Commander Grak, I presume," she said. "Your reputation precedes you." Grak was taken aback. "You know who I am." Lisa shrugged. "The raiders are well known. And your ship design is distinctive." Grak circled her slowly, trying to understand her unusual calm. "Most beings show terror when facing raiders, yet you seem comfortable." "I'm not alone," Lisa said simply. Grak looked around the empty cabin. "Your scanner shows only one life form aboard this vessel. You are very much alone, human." A strange smile crossed Lisa's face. "If you say so." As the raiders secured the ship and prepared to transfer Lisa to a holding cell, one of them noticed something odd. The ship's logs showed ongoing conversations during the entire journey. Hours of dialogue recorded in the human's voice, as if she had been speaking with someone else the entire time. "Commander," the raider called out, pointing to the log. "The human has been talking to someone, but there's no one else here." Grak studied the logs, then looked at Lisa with new interest. "Who were you speaking with, human?" Lisa just smiled again. "Like I said, I'm never alone." Lisa Daniels checked her ship's scanners for the third time. Something felt off about the empty sector ahead. The Silent Guardian was a small but capable vessel, designed for long-range patrol missions along the outer colonies. Lisa had been piloting solo ships for 7 years now, and she had developed a strong sense for trouble. "What do you think?" she asked, her eyes still fixed on the scanner display. "It looks clear, but—" She paused as if listening to a response, then nodded. "Right. Let's run a deeper scan." Lisa's fingers moved across the control panel, activating the ship's more sensitive detection systems. These use more energy, but could detect vessels with basic stealth technology. The scan took 30 seconds to complete, and when it did, her suspicions were confirmed. "There," she said, pointing at a faint outline on the screen. "Hiding in the radiation shadow of that gas cloud. Signature matches known raider vessels." Lisa took a deep breath. Raiders were bad news, especially for solo ships. She could try to outrun them, but if they had spotted her already, that would just lead to a chase she might not win. The Silent Guardian wasn't built for speed. "No, you're right," she said to the empty air beside her. "Better to face them on our terms." With quick, decisive movements, Lisa began programming a series of commands into the ship's computer. Rather than fleeing, she adjusted course directly toward the hidden raider vessel. At the same time, she activated several systems in sequence: emergency beacons, sensor buoys, and a specialized communications protocol that would send encrypted data bursts to the nearest Earth fleet outpost. On the raider ship, Commander Grak was startled by the sudden change in the human vessel's behavior. "The ship has spotted us," his tactical officer announced. "But it's moving toward us, not away." Grak's yellow eyes narrowed. "A trap. Scan for other human vessels." "Nothing detected, Commander. The human is alone." "Then the pilot has lost their mind," Grak said. "No sane being approaches raiders voluntarily. Prepare to disable their ship." The raider vessel emerged from hiding, its weapons systems fully charged. They fired a targeted ion pulse designed to disable the smaller ship's engines and communications. The pulse hit the Silent Guardian directly, causing its lights to flicker and its engines to stall. "Direct hit," the weapons officer reported. "Their systems are disabled." "Good," Grak said. "Bring them in." The raiders extended their capture field, drawing the helpless human ship toward their docking bay. Within minutes, boarding teams had cut through the airlock and stormed into the Silent Guardian. They found Lisa sitting calmly in the pilot's chair, hands raised in surrender. "Just one human," the boarding team leader reported back to Grak. "Female, not resisting." Grak was puzzled by the report. Most pilots fought, or at least showed fear when captured. He decided to meet this human himself. When Grak entered the captured ship, Lisa looked up at him with a steady gaze that showed no trace of fear. "Commander Grak, I presume," she said. "Your reputation precedes you." Grak was taken aback. "You know who I am." Lisa shrugged. "The raiders are well known. And your ship design is distinctive." Grak circled her slowly, trying to understand her unusual calm. "Most beings show terror when facing raiders. Yet you seem comfortable." "I'm not alone," Lisa said simply. Grak looked around the empty cabin. "Your scanner shows only one life form aboard this vessel. You are very much alone, human." A strange smile crossed Lisa's face. "If you say so." As the raiders secured the ship and prepared to transfer Lisa to a holding cell, one of them noticed something odd. The ship's logs showed ongoing conversations during the entire journey, hours of dialogue recorded in the human's voice, as if she had been speaking with someone else the entire time. "Commander," the raider called out, pointing to the log. "The human has been talking to someone, but there's no one else here." Grak studied the logs, then looked at Lisa with new interest. "Who are you speaking with, human?" Lisa just smiled again. "Like I said, I'm never alone." The massive ship drifted silently in the shadow of an asteroid belt. Unlike most vessels that proudly displayed their registration and planet of origin, this one bore no markings except for a jagged red symbol painted across its hull. It was a Krell raider ship, and those who recognized that symbol knew to change course immediately. Commander Grak stood on the bridge, his scaled skin reflecting the red emergency lights. His species had evolved from apex predators on a harsh desert world, and he carried that heritage in his sharp teeth and piercing yellow eyes. Around him, raiders from 6 different alien species worked at their stations, each drawn to his command by the promise of easy wealth and the thrill of the hunt. "Status report," Grak demanded, his voice a low growl. A blue-skinned Merizan turned from her scanner. 3 trading vessels detected in nearby sectors, Commander. 2 are merchant convoys with heavy escorts. Her mouth curved into a smile. "And 1 is a human solo ship." Grak's eyes narrowed with interest. "Human solo ship. Excellent. Plot and intercept course." The raiders had learned through experience that human solo ships often carried valuable cargo with minimal defenses. They were perfect targets, small, isolated, and typically piloted by a single human with no backup. What continued to puzzle Grak was why humans persisted with this practice when every other spacefaring species had long ago recognized the dangers of traveling alone. "I want this one captured intact," Grak announced to his crew. "Add the pilot to our collection." In a secure hold deep within the raider vessel, 3 humans sat in separate cells divided by transparent barriers. They could see but not hear each other. Each cell was designed to maximize the sense of isolation, a psychological tactic that broke most species quickly. Yet strangely, the human captives showed none of the expected deterioration. Grak entered the holding area with his second-in-command, a lanky Vorton named Krell. "These humans confound me," Grak admitted as they observed the prisoners. "We've held them for 20 cycles now. By all accounts, they should be begging to cooperate just for the comfort of conversation." Krell nodded. "The female in the first cell speaks to herself constantly. The males do it less frequently, but they all exhibit the behavior." "It's not normal," Grak muttered. "Every species we've encountered suffers from isolation. It's a universal constant. Space is vast and empty, and minds need interaction to remain stable. Yet these humans, perhaps they are simply slower to break," Krell suggested. Grak shook his scaled head. "No, there's something else at work here. Something we're missing." On the bridge, the tracking systems locked onto the signal of the approaching human vessel. The raiders moved with practiced efficiency, preparing for the ambush. The weapon systems powered up silently, and the boarding teams checked their equipment one last time. "Human ship entering optimal intercept range in 3 minutes," the navigation officer announced. Grak returned to the bridge and took his command position. "Engage stealth systems. Prepare the ion disruptors for disabling their engines and communications. I want this clean and quick." The raider ship glided forward, its advanced cloaking technology making it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. On their view screen, Grak could see their target, a small streamlined vessel with Earth fleet markings that identified it as the distant star asterisk. "Strange creatures, these humans," Grak mused. "Their technology is advanced enough for larger ships, yet they choose to send single pilots into the void. No other species would willingly subject themselves to such isolation." His tactical officer, a former military strategist from the Centauri worlds, looked up from her station. "Perhaps they simply cannot afford larger crews, Commander." "No," Grak replied. "Their economy is robust. This is a deliberate choice, and I mean to understand it. Every human we've captured speaks to empty rooms, has conversations with no one. It's as if they don't know they're alone. The raider ship closed in on its prey, weapons ready. Soon, they would add another human to their collection. Another piece to the puzzle of why humans flew solo when no other species dared travel the stars alone. Frank Morrison sat alone in the pilot's chair of the Solitary Venture *, his fingers dancing across the control panel as the ship glided through the empty blackness of space. The soft blue glow from the instruments lit his weathered face. He hummed quietly to himself, a habit he had developed during his 15 years as a solo pilot. Approaching the Orion trading post, Frank said aloud, though no one else was physically present to hear him, "Better check our supplies before docking." He pulled up the inventory display and nodded with satisfaction. The small ship carried valuable minerals from the outer colonies, enough to trade for fuel and maintenance parts. Frank had made this run dozens of times before. As the Solitary Venture approached the trading post, a massive wheel-shaped station rotating slowly against the backdrop of distant stars, Frank noticed a sleek, silver vessel 3 times the size of his own ship. Its design was unmistakable. Zephyrian. The aliens were known throughout the galaxy as skilled traders with advanced technology and a fondness for large crews. Frank opened a communication channel as station protocol required. Trading Post Orion. This is Solitary Venture requesting docking permission. Human vessel, solo pilot, cargo manifest attached. The response came quickly. Permission granted. Solitary Venture Proceed to dock 17. As Frank guided his ship toward the assigned dock, another communication pinged. This one came from the Zephyrian vessel. Human ship, this is Captain Neela of the Stellar Wind *. Your approach vector is quite precise for such a limited vessel. The alien's voice carried a tone that Frank recognized all too well, polite on the surface but hiding amusement underneath. "Thank you, Captain," Frank replied evenly. "We humans manage just fine." A soft laugh echoed through the channel. "Indeed. Though I cannot imagine how you endure such journeys alone. Our crew of 12 would go mad without each other's company during long voyages. Do you not fear the solitude sickness that affects most spacefaring species?" Frank smiled slightly. This wasn't the first time he'd heard such questions from alien crews. "Humans have our ways of coping." "Fascinating," Neela responded. "Perhaps that explains your species' insistence on these primitive arrangements. Our scientists have always wondered why humans continue sending solo ships when your technology clearly allows for larger vessels and crews." Frank guided his ship into the docking bay with practiced ease. "Sometimes one is all you need," he said simply. After docking, Frank moved through his ship's small corridor toward the airlock. He passed the tiny galley and his sleeping quarters, spaces that most alien species would find claustrophobic for even short journeys, let alone the weeks Frank spent between ports. At the trading post, Frank pushed his floating cargo container along the wide main concourse. The station buzzed with activity, beings from dozens of worlds conducting business, trading goods, and exchanging information. Many traveled in groups of 3 or more, their conversations filling the air with a variety of languages. Frank noticed a group of Zephyrians ahead, their silvery skin and tall, slender forms standing out among the crowd. He recognized Captain Neela by the ornate insignia on her uniform. She was speaking with her crew, but paused when she spotted Frank. "The human solo pilot," she said, loud enough for him to hear. Her crew turned to look at him with the same curious amusement. "Tell me, how do you maintain your mental equilibrium in the void without companions?" Frank smiled politely. "I'm never really alone out there." The Zephyrians exchanged glances, clearly not understanding. "Strange creatures, these humans," one of them said. "No wonder there's still a minor power in the galaxy, with such inefficient methods." Frank just shrugged and continued pushing his cargo. Let them think what they wanted. Humans knew something about space travel that other species hadn't figured out yet. There was a good reason why human ships traveled solo, a reason that had kept mankind safe among the stars for generations. And if aliens wanted to mock human solo ships, that was fine by him. They'd learn the truth eventually. They always did.